First, a little history. We are in a 1996 Fleetwood Bounder. She's 35 feet long. She sits on a Chevy P30 chassis. We bought her about a year ago and have enjoyed the heck out of it. Our first problem came when we were traveling from Texas to Oklahoma to see my youngest son graduate from boot camp. Um, we went up into Oklahoma City to see my niece, and the weather turned a little cool. While driving down the road, the engine cut out. It started right back up again, so I don't really know kind of what happened. And then thought I had a bad battery post. Well, let me take you outside and I'll show you there. Okay, so here we are. We're at the front of Rue. And we'll go ahead and open her engine compartment. And she has a Chevy 454. Back to my story. When the engine cut out, I figured we had a loose wire. So the first thing I did was come in here, and we have two 6-volt house batteries in here, and then this is the engine battery, 12 volt. So the first thing I did was look for a loose wire, because that's obviously it, right? Loose wire, ignition cuts out, ignition cuts back in. So I messed with this wire, negative, no problem. I measure with this one, it's kind of loose. So I get out a socket and I tighten it up, and I notice that it's stripped out. So my first thought is, well, it's got to be a bad post. So I ran down to the local hardware store with the engine cutting out every 5 minutes, and I bought a brand new post and stuck it in there. And that's the new post there. Thinking everything was a-okay, we take off down the road, and it cuts out again. In fact, at one point, it wouldn't start. It was like the battery was dead. So I figured, okay, there's something inherently wrong with the battery. And I went down to the Camping World and I bought this nice big AGM $200 battery, because if I'm going to replace a battery, I don't want to mess with it ever again, really. Replaced the battery, got everything going, thought, okay, problem solved, and we start down the road to Fort Sill. Oh, by the way, in replacing the battery, I broke this windshield washer reservoir because it's old and dry rotted, and literally pulling the battery out, bam, gone. So we got a new one of these to replace. Anyways, we get down to Fort Sill, and I talk to a RV mechanic who says, oh, you probably have a bad, oh, hang on, let's open this right here. There we go. A bad relay switch, this thing right here. Now what this does is if you push a button inside, it jumps the house batteries over to the engine battery, and you can effectively give yourself a jump start. And he said that all the wires on my battery disconnects were loose, so we tightened all those up and thought the problem was solved. Coming home from Oklahoma, she cut out a couple of more times, and then once we crossed the border into Texas, the problem went away. So the working theory at that time was the RV doesn't like Oklahoma, which is weird because I found Oklahoma to be okay. Anyways, didn't have the problem again, and then my wife and I decided to go winter camping. And on our way back from winter camping, this thing cut out so many times, I was just livid. And it was a Sunday, there wasn't a mechanic anywhere, so I grabbed my little 12-volt meter and I started poking around on all the wires. And what we found out is this piece right here, which is the battery disconnect for the engine, was not getting power to the other side. So if you can see, I went to an auto parts store and bought this jumper wire, and I basically just jumpered past the disconnect. So there's no battery disconnect working on this now. And then I went looking for this particular battery disconnect, which if you ever went looking for a battery disconnect, you find a lot of things that look like that, but nothing that looks like that. Finally, on Amazon, I found the correct component. Ta-da! However, they were out of stock. But getting the numbers off of it from Amazon, I went searching the internet and found it at a Pete's RV Supply in California. And, oh, by the way, it was cheaper than Amazon. Ordered it, and here we go. So today we're going to swap out this piece in there. Okay, before I disconnect everything here, I've disconnected the house battery, or the chassis battery. This is the disconnect. In this model, this is the disconnect for the house batteries. And if you look, there is a copper plate that goes over here to this switch. This switch is the button you push on the inside to give yourself a jump start. On the other side of this, your main battery cable comes up. This is from your chassis battery. And there's another plate that goes up to this side of this switch. This is your, of course there's a plane going over. Every time I start to talk, it's a plane or a lawnmower or a weed eater. Okay, this is the disconnect for the chassis battery. So that on the other side of this, this is the chassis power coming into all the rest of your electronics. So this right here is the jumper that I went to go to bridge this disconnect when it stopped working. So basically I eliminated the disconnect by putting this jumper in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off this jumper. We're working with electricity here. Disconnect the battery. Disconnect the chassis battery. And I would also suggest that you disconnect the house batteries, because if you look in this box, all the wires for the house batteries and chassis batteries run through this. And if you check this with a meter after you've disconnected everything, and you should, because I did and I found voltage, and it just blew my brain away why I was finding voltage. And then I remembered this small little solar panel that's up on top of the air conditioner that keeps the house batteries fresh from dying, leaking, and that wire had to be disconnected also. I may not disconnect that one today because it's such small voltage, I don't think I'm going to hurt myself. But other than that, the rest of these batteries have the potential to scare the crap out of you. Okay? The tools. Mostly we're going to be using open-end wrenches. You can use sockets if you want, but there are some tight spots in there, and I know I'm getting in there close. Also, if you don't know what something is, on the back side of this panel that covered that, you will find a complete layout of everything that is in there, including what they're for and what's going on. Although it doesn't show everything, it shows enough. Alright, let's slide that back there and get to disconnecting some batteries. Back with you in a sec. Okay, we have that off. There we go. Now we're going to disconnect the main power out and the copper plate in, and then we will start on these little wires and then unscrew this. So that's next. Okay, I have the mains disconnected. I have wrapped all these three together because they all go on the same side. This is disconnected. Looks like I'm going to need a socket to take these off. So I'm going to grab my socket set, take these two off, gray and purple. And luckily on my chart, it's listed as gray and purple. If you don't know, take a picture of yours before you start so you can put it back the same after. Okay, next step. Take these off, take those off, and then we will get the new one in there. Okay, old one is off. Time to put the new one on. However, when we took the old one off, we found an extra wire hanging over there that was connected with this brass bar. So I gotta remember to put that on too. Okay, that bolt, real easy. This bolt over here, not so easy. It's like once you get your hand in there you can't see, and poking a hole in the dark reminds me of prom. Okay, purple and gray wires are back on. This is what actually comes from the switch. When you hit the switch inside, it sends a little voltage in here and trips that sucker back and forth. So those are back on. Now we're going to hook up all the main wires. Then we'll check it out. Okay, she's all wired back up in there. Got everything connected, including the extra wire. Got my purple and gray in the right order. We're going to go ahead and pull this out. Try not to make you nauseous while we're doing this. That ought to work. Might be a little crooked. Okay. Do yourself a favor, always close this thing while the battery's disconnected, because this lid has a ground strap. That goes on there. That goes on there. We're connected. Now we can reconnect this battery. Oh, look at that, sparkages. Alright, I'm going to tighten that up and we'll go check it out. Alright, so here is our auxiliary. Those are house batteries. These are the main batteries. Okay, that seems to have worked. Oh, let's grab the keys. And let's see if I blow it up. There's always that possibility. Power. Ooh, it worked. Backup camera's working. Oh no, gotta reset my radio. It's in that factory default crap mode. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. There we go. So 12 volt test light will go a long way into solving your problems. That's all for now.